Accelerated Learning Binaural Beats. Listen to these 30 practice management terms that are common on the practice management section of the ARE. The terms are taken from the Architect's Handbook of Professional Practice, Chapter 16, on Risk Management Strategies. Play the audio before you sleep or when you wake up in a relaxed state. Repeat the word and use your imagination to apply the word to what you already know. Let's begin. Hold harmless. Hold harmless is the same as using the term to indemnify. Hold harmless provisions are inserted into a contract whereby one party assumes another's legal liability as long as the provision is covered by insurance. Claim. Claim is the demand for services, money, or property based upon a right found in a contract. Claims made policies. Claims made policies for professional liability insurance means that the date the claim is finally made is the triggering event of coverage. Unlike auto insurance, where coverage is triggered on the date an incident occurs, with claims made policies, the date the claim is finally made, which could be years later, becomes the triggering event for coverage start date. Therefore, it is critical the architect continue to maintain professional liability insurance with no restriction as to a retroactive date. Prior acts. Prior acts insurance provision whereby the firm can buy coverage for professional acts and services that took place before they first became insured or when they were insured by another carrier. Prior acts coverage is available to firms after they've been covered by a carrier for some period of time. Tail insurance. Tail insurance addresses protection upon retirement or withdrawal from practice. Insurers will provide professional liability coverage to continue protection needed by architects who withdraw from practice and are protected from claims in the future. Coverage is also available to protect assets of deceased architects. Five ways to manage contract risks. Number 1, appoint a single person or team of individuals to review and negotiate contract conditions. People who look at contracts for a living are trained to spot clauses and issues in a contract. Number 2, part of reviewing contracts, project managers should review the contract they will be managing and provide feedback when the contract is being created. Number 3, provide access to the contract for review by everyone on the team. Number 4, save and maintain electronic copies in an electronic directory, easily retrievable in the future. Number 5, use standard agreements such as AIA document forms, which have been tested by the courts and language refined over time. Types of standard agreements to have on hand include full services agreements, limited scope agreements, notice to proceed, consultant agreements, and common exhibits. 4 strategies to manage risk. Number 1, avoid risk. Avoid risk by selecting projects the firm has prior experience and working with clients with great reputations. Number 2, transfer risk. Transfer risk to others like business partners, owners, or consultants. Number 3, assume risk. Assume risk by accepting work but being prepared and maintaining cash to satisfy insurance deductibles. Number 4, control risk. Trained staff adopt strategies in-house and seek legal counsel to prevent claims. 4 reasons to purchase professional liability insurance for architects. Professional liability insurance, referred to as errors and omissions insurance, defends the architect against claims of error and negligence in the performance of professional duties in exchange for premiums paid to the insurance company. Reasons the architect should consider E&O insurance are: Number 1, business survival. The cost for defending a claim could leave a firm bankrupt. Number 2, continuing operations. If the firm is involved in a lawsuit, professional liability coverage provides the firm with financial resources to defend itself while continuing business as normal. Number 3, contract requirements. Contracts and projects require the architect to maintain professional liability insurance up to a certain limit. Number 4, social responsibility. This is by far the most important point of the 4 mentioned. Maintaining professional liability insurance policy can protect not just the architect, but the architect's employees, customers, and others against losses. Insurance brokers consider the following before issuing professional liability coverage to an architect. Number 1, size of total billings. Number 2, states of operation. Number 3, professional liability claims history. Number 4, use of written agreements on all projects. Number 5, other firm services including pollution cleanup, remediation, or containment. Number 6, percentage of billings in various professional categories such as architecture, construction management, interior design, landscape architecture, etc. Number 7, whether the firm is involved in providing civil, structural, mechanical, or any other engineering services. Number 8, billings and categories such as feasibility studies, master plans, construction management, program management, facilities, or operations. Number 9, percentage of project types such as airport facilities, apartments, bridges, condominiums, hospitals, single-family residential, etc. Number 10, project requirements. Number 11, contract requirements. How to select a professional liability provider. In a survey by the AIA Trust, the most important attributes identified for selecting a provider in order of priority. Number 1, policy form. Number 2, claims handling expertise. Number 3, product price. Number 4, longevity in the professional liability market. Number 5, financial stability. Number 6, loss control services. Number 7, knowledgeable underwriting staff. And number 8, ability to redesign coverage for design build, building information modeling, and integrated project delivery. Vicarious liability. Vicarious liability is indirect liability imposed on a party resulting from the acts or omissions of another person or entity for whose conduct the party is responsible. Consider the scenario of architects hiring consultants on their projects. The architect has vicarious liability for any damage caused by the consultant's negligence. Insured design professionals should review their consultant's insurance status, since architects will serve as the consultant's insurer if the consultant doesn't carry adequate insurance and could be responsible for the consultant's negligence. In the same token, if the architect serves as a sub-consultant to other professionals, they should check the primary design professional's coverage to determine if there are gaps, since this too can transfer liability to the sub-consultant, in this case, the architect. Joint venture. Joint ventures legally are similar to partnerships, with the main difference being that joint ventures have limited scope or purpose. For example, two firms teaming up to work on a project or competition together, utilizing each other's expertise in a collaborative effort, is a joint venture. If a professional liability claim is filed against the joint venture, all members could be held liable for any judgment rendered on the suit. Check with the insurance provider before entering an agreement to make sure the policy covers joint ventures. Each member of the joint venture would obtain evidence from the other joint venture partners that their policies have endorsed the coverage. This can be done by obtaining COI or Certificate of Insurance and a copy of the joint venture endorsement. Strategic alliance. Strategic alliance are business ventures and have the same insurance concerns as a joint venture. Liabilities can extend to all members of the strategic alliance. It's important for the alliance to be covered by a separate professional liability insurance policy. Professional liability insurance. Professional liability insurance is insurance that covers errors and omissions of the architect and design team participants and named professional consultants for the term of the project, plus a predetermined discovery period after completion of construction. Expanded project delivery approaches. Expanded project delivery approaches can receive coverage for design professionals acting as design builders, construction managers, or land developers. Check with the insurance provider for gaps in policies. For example, a construction manager acting as advisor to the owner is covered under most professional liability policies, but construction manager as constructor, or CM at risk, is not. Integrated project delivery, or IPD, for example, is another method where insurers are determining how to approach coverage in this new, collaborative, multidimensional approach to projects. Sharing information and risks across the architect, owner, contractor, and consultants is different from traditional coverage policies. Look for insurance providers for IPD and understand the risks before purchasing coverage. Settlement issues. Settlement issues require the insurer and insured to be involved to settle a claim. Professional liability policies require consent from the insured before an insurer can settle a professional liability claim. In similar terms, an architect cannot negotiate the terms of any settlement without the insurer's permission. Property or casualty coverage. Property or casualty coverage, referred to as P&C insurance, is for specific business exposures such as computer equipment, laptops and cell phones, valuable papers and media, accounts receivable, and business property off premises. Property coverage protects against loss or damage to essential pieces of the business and the loss of any documents and equipment. For technology exposure, computer virus coverage can be included to the P&C policy. Cyber liability coverage may be a separate policy. Commercial general liability. Commercial general liability insurance covers liability from incidents that occur on or off the policyholder's premises or that arise from non-professional aspects of the insurer's practice. 3 basic coverage areas include: number 1, property damage; number 2, bodily injury; and number 3, personal and advertising injury such as libel, slander, and copyright infringement. General liability coverage. General liability coverage, the most basic and important of commercial insurance, protects the firm from injury and property damage. These policies set dollar limits on the amounts an insurance company is obligated to pay for each type of claim. Employment practices liability coverage. Employment practices liability coverage helps to protect against claims brought by employees, such as discrimination, sexual harassment, and wrongful termination. Workers' compensation. Workers' compensation is insurance that provides wage replacement and medical benefits to employees injured in the course of their employment. The injured or disabled are provided fixed monetary awards, eliminating the need for litigation. Intellectual property insurance. Intellectual property insurance protects companies for copyright, trademark, or patent infringement claims arising out of the company's operations. It protects the firm from lawsuits by a competitor for infringing on an idea belonging to someone else. Business interruption insurance. Business interruption insurance reimburses the architect for ongoing expenses and loss of profits in the event of a fire or other casualty that interrupts normal business operations. This insurance can be written to cover fire, windstorm, extended coverage perils, computer crashes, and other hazards. Fidelity Bond. Fidelity Bond is designed to protect firms against crime insurance involving money, securities, checks, and other paper securities inside and outside the firm's premises to protect against loss by burglary, robbery, theft, and disappearance and destruction by fire and other causes. A professional liability policy does not cover against dishonest acts of associates and employees. Technology liability coverage. Technology liability coverage is now covered by many professional liability insurers. The policy protects claims against an architect arising out of a negligent act in managing the security of a computer system. If the computer system network security is compromised, the architect is protected from suits alleging injury or damage. Disciplinary, regulatory, or administrative expense. Disciplinary, regulatory, or administrative expense reimbursement is typically offered in professional liability policies. It extends coverage to the architect for legal fees and expenses incurred in any disciplinary, regulatory, or administrative action commenced directly against the architect. For example, actions brought by the state licensing board would cover the architect's legal fees and expenses incurred under this administrative reimbursement. Contractual liability. Contractual liability is the concept that all kinds of contracts, from office leases to purchase orders, contain language that transfer liability to the architect or firm. This type of coverage, which can be purchased part of the general liability coverage, protects the architect from hold harmless provisions in other contracts, but typically applies to bodily injury or property damage. Business automobile liability. Business automobile liability protects architects exposed to auto claims and business use of automobiles. For example, if an employee is involved in an auto accident while visiting a site using their own or a company-owned vehicle, the employee's personal auto policy will be the primary auto policy to protect the employee, architect, and firm. If employee limits are exhausted, the architect's or firm limits are at risk. Umbrella or excess liability. Umbrella or excess liability policies provide higher limits with underlying general liability, automobile, and employer liability policies. Limitation of liability. Limitation of liability, or LOL, refers to the additional liability beyond the professional liability coverage limit that architects may be responsible for if the suit exceeds that coverage. For this reason, LOL clause or agreement is established in contracts where both parties agree not to seek damages in excess of a pre-established and agreed upon amount.